LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to the September 29th edition of LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. Thanks for joining me. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing. As usual, I picked out the weekend's best. This weekend it's 17 clips from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the big five corporate outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, the so-called corporate media here in the United States, for what should be a really educational, informative, fair use media criticism and political commentary show for you all tonight. Finally, it looks like Trump will be impeached. Finally. I'm about 90% positive at this point, based on the facts that we already know, that the House is going to impeach Donald Trump. I'm not, of course, predicting his removal. Remember, if you follow along in your Constitution, it takes a majority of the House to impeach Trump, but then it goes to the Senate for trial for possible removal, and we get to see if this thing actually works. This is the U.S. Constitution. Maybe you have your own copy at home. So that's the big topic. I will have a political comedy from Saturday Night Live last night, the cold open, Alec Baldwin, the impeachment cold open, with Rudy Giuliani being played by Kate McKinnon, and also, I'll talk about that clip when I get to it. Also have Robert De Niro saying what he really thinks of Fox News criticizing him for using profanity at the Tonys about Trump. And I'll have several Adam Schiff clips. He looks like he's going to be the big political star of the impeachment inquiry based on what's happened so far. I'll have corporate media hosts cross-examining Republicans trying to defend Trump, like Jake Tapper did this epic takedown of Representative Jim Jordan. And then I'll have some lesser cross-examinations of Stephen Miller, Lindsey Graham, Steve Scalise. There's a list of all the guests and all the clips down in the video description. There's also a link to my clip list if you want to follow along on my notes. But like I said, I wanted to start with the Saturday Night Live cold open, where Alec Baldwin reprised his role as Donald Trump facing impeachment on the phone, talking to various people. Well, a couple people that I will say. There's something important about Rudy Giuliani and Vice President Mike Pence, which I will talk about a little more after we watch. The source of all my clips at links down in the video description. The entire Saturday Night Live cold open available free on the Saturday Night Live channel on YouTube. This is 2 minutes of that cold open from last night over here.
Get me Rudy Giuliani on the phone.
Oh, hey, Mr. Trump. What's new?
What do you mean, what's new, Rudy? I'm being impeached. It's the greatest presidential harassment of all time, I would know. I'm like the president of harassment.
You gotta relax, Mr. Trump. We got nothing to worry about. Nobody's gonna find out about our illegal side dealings with the Ukraine.
Good.
Or how we tried to cover up those side dealings.
Great.
Or how we plan to cover up the cover-up.
Rudy, where are you right now?
I'm on CNN right now. Let me put you on speaker.
Rudy, get out of there, and whatever you do, stay off the phone. I got another call.
All right.
Okay. Who's this?
It's Attorney General Barr.
Bill, I'm really starting to worry.
Well, stay calm, Mr. President. I know things look bad right now, but I got our top guy on this.
Good. Well, let's get him on the phone, too.
Hello?
Damn it, not Rudy.
Oh, hey, Mr. President.
Rudy, you're not still on CNN, are you?
Of course not.
Good.
I'm on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Rudy, hang up the phone and get out of there. Bill, I'm going to need somebody to take the blame for this.
Yeah, but where are you going to find a sacrificial patsy that'll do anything you say? Not it.
Don't worry, I've got the perfect stooge.
Hello?
Big Mike, how's church going? You still waiting on, what's-his-face to come back?
You mean Jesus?
Yeah, that's the guy. Sure. Listen, I'm just calling you about this whole Ukraine whistleblower thing. It's looking pretty bad for you.
For me, but you're the one who broke the law.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't try to drag me into your mess.
And it goes on from there. Like I said, you can watch the whole cold open at a link down in the video description. But my favorite joke there was Donald Trump, or Alec Baldwin as Donald Trump, saying, you're waiting for what's his name to come back. You mean Jesus? I don't know why I thought that was so funny. But I like the way they showed both Rudy Giuliani and Mike Pence as possible patsies, scapegoats. I think we're going to end up with some sort of scapegoat. Trump's going to start pointing fingers at everybody. I don't know who's going to point fingers at who. It looks like Rudy Giuliani's already pointing fingers at the State Department. And anyway, I thought that identifying those two possible scapegoats early on in the cold open was that just happenstance, or is that some sort of deeper analysis from Saturday Night Live? I don't know. But you remember when I did my Rudy Giuliani or Fox News edits out Rudy Giuliani contradicting himself within 30 seconds video about a week and a half ago? One of the things that I showed there was how Rudy Giuliani, I showed that he was talking, I think what I called it, obfuscatory gibberish. And he did a lot of that on the shows this week. I decided not to show any of the Rudy Giuliani clips because I told you I have several other good Republicans being cross-examined, and I'll get to those clips. But one thing that some of the Republicans were trying to say, that this shows that the Mueller report was nothing. You'll see, I'll show a Lindsey Graham clip where he says the Mueller report was nothing. And you may remember Robert Mueller was played on Saturday Night Live by Robert De Niro. He talked about that in this interview he did on CNN's Reliable Sources this morning. But I don't want to show that clip. I want to show the clip where he talked to Brian Stelter about, first of all, Brian Stelter asked him if he thinks Trump is acting, and he said maybe, sometimes. And then he also talked about some of these Fox News hosts who were acting, which got Brian Stelter to ask him about what he thinks about Fox News criticizing him for saying, like, fuck him to Trump at the Tony Awards, I think it was. And I think that we can all enjoy Robert De Niro's response over here.
I wonder, as an actor, do you ever look at the president and think he's performing, like he's playing an act or something?
In some ways, I think he is, but I think that it's... as I think some of these other pundits on Fox are too, because I can't believe that they would actually buy into this craziness. This guy should not be president, period.
And when you say that, folks on Fox come after you. I remember the Tonys when you got up there and cursed. A lot of criticism of you.
Fuck him.
Okay, well, this is cable, so it's not an FCC violation, but it is still a Sunday morning.
Well,
I do wonder why you choose to go that way.
Let me say something.
Why do you choose to go that way?
We are at a moment in our life, in this country, where this guy is like a gangster. He's come along and he's said things, done things we say over and over again. This is terrible. We're in a terrible situation. We're in a terrible situation. And this guy just keeps going on and on and on without being stopped.
Let's fit in a break. Let's squeeze in a commercial. More with Robert De Niro in just a moment.
And I put a link down to the Reliable Sources program in the video description. You can watch the entire Robert De Niro interview, but I thought I would throw that in as kind of political comedy. And Robert De Niro, like I said, played Robert Mueller, whose investigation may have taken too long, according to Chuck Todd on NBC News' Meet the Press, where they did a very long news summary of a very big news week. Let me see, look at my clip notes here. Basically, 10 days ago, you remember on the week before last on my Sunday Live clip roundup, I had that one Adam Schiff clip that I said might be the most important news clip of the week, where he talked about this whistleblower complaint. And it's just been 10 days and it's blown up into an impeachment inquiry. A majority of the House now supports impeachment, an impeachment inquiry at least. And Republicans won't defend Trump on the substance. They're making all these weird process defenses, as you'll see when we get to the cross-examinations. But that's some of the things that Chuck Todd talked about in the introduction to his news summary. And then he goes, and also the effect on Biden. And then he goes to his pre-recorded video package, which I will talk about with you after we watch this news summary. And I saw some people liking the shirt. I want to hear. This is the full shirt. I just got this. I'm thinking of maybe making this available to my patrons, or like make this a premium, a shirt like this as a premium for donations. I don't know. It might be too complicated, but you can let me know if you. People said, I did see one person say they wanted this shirt. This is the full shirt, but you can let me know what you think down in the comments section while we watch the NBC News Meet the Press news summary together over here.
Good Sunday morning. For anyone on either side of the red-blue divide who was frustrated by the pace of the Mueller investigation, 10 days in September have provided a staggering turn of events. It was just last week that the Washington Post broke the whistleblower story about President Trump's phone call with Ukraine's president. Immediately, support among House Democrats for impeachment proceedings exploded into a majority of the House, leaving Nancy Pelosi no choice but to do what progressives had demanded and she had resisted for so long: announce a formal impeachment inquiry. Rather than a drip, 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 there's been a gusher of bad news for the president since then. And it's important to note that Republicans have avoided pushing back on the substance of the whistleblower's charges. There's a lot we don't know at this point. We don't know all the details that could emerge in an impeachment case against President Trump. We don't know with any certainty that Republicans will rally around Mr. Trump, as they did so comfortably the last time. And we don't know whether Mr. Trump's baseless charges about Joe Biden and Ukraine will make Biden a more sympathetic figure or tarnish him to the benefit of another Democratic candidate like Elizabeth Warren. But there is something that both sides think they do know, that this new crisis is easier to understand and presents a greater threat to the president than the Mueller investigation ever did.
We cannot ignore our oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing a formal impeachment inquiry after months of resistance, following the revelation that the president pressured Ukraine's president to investigate his political opponent, Joe Biden, while withholding military aid.
It is hard to imagine a more fundamental abuse of that office.
It's another witch hunt. Here we go again.
On Wednesday, the White House released detailed notes from that July 25th call with Ukraine's president. After President Zelensky expressed his desire for more military equipment, including Javelin anti-tank missiles, President Trump responded, "I would like you to do us a favor, though," asking Ukraine to investigate the 2016 election and unfounded conspiracies about Joe Biden and his son.
President Zelensky raises the question of defensive aid, and within minutes, the President of the United States is asking him to investigate Joe Biden.
He will stop at nothing to hold on to power. It's not surprising that I become the object of his attention.
On Thursday, another bombshell. The CIA whistleblower complaint made public, detailing in 9 pages allegations that the president is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election. Describing months of contacts between the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, whom the whistleblower names more than 30 times, and Ukrainian officials, and alleging that White House officials attempted to lock down the record of the call, hiding it in a highly classified computer system.
Right now, there's a cover-up of the cover-up.
By late Friday, House Democrats had already subpoenaed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for documents and scheduled depositions with 5 State Department officials named in the whistleblower complaint.
Are you willing to testify in front of Congress?
Well, there's a lot of problems with that. I mean, would I like to testify and tell my story? Sure. There are things that I can't testify to because I'm a lawyer.
Inside the West Wing, there is rising anxiety, unease, and concern. Most Republicans in Congress have defended the president.
When I think of whistleblower complaints, I think of somebody who saw something that was wrong and came forward to say so. This is hearsay information.
But small cracks are already emerging.
I did read the transcript. It remains troubling in the extreme.
Republicans ought not to be rushing to circle the wagons and say there's no there when there's obviously lots that's very troubling there.
And even some Trump allies are beginning to question Giuliani's role.
He's wild as a March hare. He's a smart guy, but he's a free-range chicken. I mean, he just kind of gets on out there.
And joining me now
So, yeah, that was the NBC News Meet the Press news summary. As usual, the longest, best, most detailed news summary, and I will compare it to 3 other news summaries from ABC, CNN, and Fox News. Fox News will, of course, have the most bias, but I'll start with the ABC News summary, where I like the way that George Stephanopoulos went right to the source here and read like the most important paragraph from the whistleblower complaint. By the way, down in the video description, if you want, you can see the unclassified summary transcript of Trump's phone call on July 25th with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine. That was one of the things that we got this week. And you can also see the 9-page whistleblower complaint. I have the NPR website version, but it's you can Google those things and find them. But I put links down in the video description if you want to check those out. And you'll see George Stephanopoulos in his news summary here concentrates on the key paragraph from the 9-page whistleblower complaint. I still recommend you read the entire thing. That's why I'm saying Trump is going to be impeached. The whistleblower complaint, the unclassified so-called summary transcript of the July 25th phone call, that's why Trump is going to be impeached. And I will talk about that a little more with you after we watch this 1 minute, 44-second news summary from ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos this morning over here.
Morning and welcome to This Week. What a week it has been. A watershed for President Trump, Congress, and the country. As we come on the air this morning, and likely for the next several months, official Washington, America's politics, dominated by the process for presidential accountability enshrined in our Constitution. Impeachment. President Trump, only the 4th American president to face an inquiry this serious. Presidents Andrew Johnson in 1868, Bill Clinton in 1998, both impeached by the House, but survived trial in the Senate. In 1974, Richard Nixon resigned in the face of almost certain impeachment and conviction in the Senate. President Trump's fate impossible to predict with any certainty right now. The charges are fresh, the investigation just beginning. America's politics as tribal as they've ever been. We do know this. It began with a 7-page single-spaced letter addressed to Congress on August 12th from an anonymous whistleblower in the intelligence community. The core charge succinctly summarized in a single paragraph, quote, "In the course of my official duties, I have received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election. This interference includes, among other things, pressuring a foreign country to investigate one of the president's main domestic political rivals. The president's personal lawyer, Mr. Rudolph Giuliani, is a central figure in this effort. Attorney General Barr appears to be involved as well." Mayor Giuliani will join us live this morning, along with the House chairman leading the investigation, Adam Schiff. But we begin with the President Trump's first Homeland Security advisor, Tom Bossert, whose core responsibilities included election.
Oh, and I'm going to have that Tom Bossert clip. That's going to be one of the breaking news clips because Tom Bossert totally destroys this whole conspiracy theory that Trump was asking Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate about the Ukraine. If you watched his news conference, he said, "Oh yeah, Hillary's emails, they may well be in the Ukraine." There's this whole, well, I'll get to that. That's if you're following along, the Tom Bossert clip is clip number 11, but now we are on clip number 5, the CNN State of the Union news summary, a little bit shorter. State of the Union this week in turmoil. Jake Tapper does a satisfactory job on this news summary. Like I said, he really shines later in his cross-examination of Representative Jim Jordan, the crazy Republican defend Trump at all costs, apparently, that you'll see that's clip number 12 right after the Tom Bossert clip. But here's the CNN news summary from this morning over here.
Hello, I'm Jake Tapper in Washington, where the state of our union is in turmoil. The mood in Washington is different this morning after a momentous week in American politics. And now congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle are preparing for what could be the most bruising political fight in decades, the possible impeachment of a president. President Trump is already in defense mode, railing on Twitter about the, quote, new and most recent witch hunt, unquote, while Speaker Pelosi is defending her decision to move forward with an impeachment process after more than a year of saying such a thing could hurt the party politically.
If this activity, this pattern of behavior were to prevail, then it's over for the Republic. We will have the equivalent of a monarchy. So the times have found us.
The House of Representatives is already moving forward quickly on the impeachment inquiry. Subpoenas were issued on Friday to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, demanding documents and witnesses related to the Ukraine scandal, while the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff tells CNN that hearings and more subpoenas could come as soon as this week. Joining me now, a key member of Speaker Pelosi's leadership team, House Democratic Caucus.
Hakeem Jeffries, who you saw at the end of that clip, he was on a couple shows. I didn't take any clips from him. But I want to get to one last news summary before I get to the newsmaker clips. This is the Fox News summary. It starts off with an introduction from Chris Wallace, who's, more of a straight news anchor. I was very proud to see on Friday Chris Wallace was on multiple shows, including, I think he talked to Sean Hannity, might have been Thursday, not Friday. But I saw him on many shows live on Friday where he was like telling everybody on Fox News the way Republicans are spinning is not surprising, but still astounding. I can't remember what word it was, like a synonym of surprising, but he was talking about how all the Republicans are spinning what is really bad behavior. And Chris Wallace did stick to that on his Fox News Sunday news summary. The only he gave, one of the things he says is that it was Trump alone. You'll see in the brief news summary that Chris Wallace gives here at the beginning, Trump alone was the one who stopped the military aid to the Ukraine, and nobody understood why. That's breaking news in this news summary here from Chris Wallace. My only criticism of Chris Wallace in this news summary is that his breaking news about Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tensing helping Rudy Giuliani investigate Joe Biden's and Hunter Biden's activities in the Ukraine. He mentions that as breaking news, but he doesn't mention that Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tensing are Fox News contributors, which he should have mentioned. Then he hands it over to Kevin Corke, who there are a couple biases in the Kevin Corke news summary. That you'll see he talks about how there was never a floor vote, which there doesn't really have to be a floor vote yet. And then he talks also about how there's been this change in the whistleblower form, which was a Federalist story, which hasn't really been corroborated, and whether the form, they say the form has been changed to allow secondhand information, hearsay information, but the rules always allowed hearsay information from whistleblowers or whatever the form said, and the form story is, anyway, it's mentioned by Kevin Corke, even though it's probably one of those like fake news stories that they throw up, the Republicans have been throwing up to muddy the waters, to distract from the wrongdoing of the Trump administration. And that, of course, it shows up in a Fox News news summary, as I'll discuss with you a little more after we watch that together over here.
And hello again from Fox News in Washington. As House Democrats pursue the possible impeachment of President Trump, we have new information to report. Fox News has learned the president's private attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was not acting alone in trying to get dirt from Ukrainian officials on 2020 rival Joe Biden. Two high-profile Washington lawyers, Joe DeGeneva, who's been a fierce critic of the Democratic investigation, and his wife, Victoria Tensing, were working with Giuliani to get Oppo research on Biden. According to a top U.S. official, all three were working off the books, apart from the administration. The only person in government who knows what they were doing is President Trump. Fox News has also learned the Pentagon, State Department, and National Security Council were unanimous in supporting military aid to Ukraine. President Trump decided to withhold that aid this summer on his own. In a moment, we'll speak exclusively with senior advisor to the president, Stephen Miller. But first, let's get the latest from Kevin Corke, live at the White House. Kevin.
Chris, a lot of moving parts here in Washington, but were it to come to pass, President Trump would be the fourth U.S. president to face impeachment.
We cannot have a president of the United States undermining his oath of office.
Explosive charges from the House Speaker in a week that saw her declare, without a single vote on the House floor, an impeachment inquiry. But that didn't stop House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, who promised that his panel will be working through the 2-week congressional recess. Indeed, along with the Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees, Schiff's Intelligence Committee issued a joint subpoena for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, demanding records of the president's communications with Ukraine by an October 4th deadline. A decision that rocked Washington but appeared to steal the resolve of an embattled and defiant President Trump.
What's going on now is the single greatest scam in the history of American politics. They're trying to stop me because I'm fighting for you, and I'll never let that happen.
This as the mystery deepens over who is the alleged whistleblower and who changed the intelligence community's rules just last month, eliminating a requirement that whistleblower complaints contain only direct, first-hand knowledge of alleged wrongdoing. Chris, if Democrats have their way, this could all move very quickly, including more subpoenas this week, hearings scheduled, and a possible vote to impeach by November. Chris?
Kevin Corke reporting from the White House. Kevin, thanks for that. Joining us now, Stephen Miller, senior advisor to the president. Stephen?
And I made you watch Stephen Miller smile twice there, and I don't know. I saw someone in the comment section saying a smile doesn't suit Stephen Miller, and it did seem he has like resting fascist face or whatever. Resting fascist face, is that a thing? I don't know. If it's not a thing, I think Stephen Miller might make it a thing. But so those are the news summaries. I think I criticized the Fox News summary before I showed it. But in addition to the news summaries, when I get to the newsmakers here, some newsmakers actually made news. They don't always do that every week. But the first newsmaker who made news was Adam Schiff. I'm going to show a couple Adam Schiff clips here. And then in the middle of these two Adam Schiff clips, I'm going to show you some clips of Adam Schiff from the hearing earlier in the week. This was on Wednesday, the hearing with Joe McGuire, the acting director of national intelligence appointed by Trump, who came and testified. You probably saw that. A couple of the things he said, one thing he said becomes relevant in this next clip about the breaking news that Adam Schiff broke on this week with George Stephanopoulos, that the whistleblower the House Intelligence Committee has come to an agreement with the whistleblower to testify, and they're just working out getting the whistleblower's attorneys intelligence classification, or getting them their intelligence clearances to, and anyway, you'll hear it from Adam Schiff here. And when he references what the acting DNI said at the House Intelligence Committee hearing during the week, I'll talk about that and then show you a 40-second clip explaining what he said after we watched this ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos clip together over here.
Who comes out of the intelligence community.
Have you reached an agreement yet with the whistleblower and his or her attorneys about coming before the committee and providing the information firsthand?
Yes, we have. And as Director McGuire promised during the hearing, that whistleblower will be allowed to come in without a minder from the Justice Department or from the White House to tell the whistleblower what they can and cannot say. We'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower. Now, we are taking all the precautions we can to make sure that we do so. We allow that testimony to go forward in a way that protects the whistleblower's identity, because, as you can imagine, with the president issuing threats like we ought to treat these people who expose my wrongdoing as we used to treat traitors and spies, and we used to execute traitors and spies, you can imagine the security concerns here.
So when do you expect to hear from the whistleblower?
Very soon. It will depend probably more on how quickly the Director of National Intelligence can complete the security clearance process for the whistleblower's lawyers. But we're ready to hear from the whistleblower as soon as that is done. And we'll keep, obviously, riding shotgun to make sure that the acting director doesn't delay in that clearance process.
You heard Mayor Giuliani say that he...
And I'm not, like I said, I'm not showing any of the Rudy Giuliani clips. I'm sick of Rudy Giuliani. though he may end up being the scapegoat of this whole thing. We'll see how that turns out. But like I said, Adam Schiff in that clip was referring to a promise that the acting director of national intelligence, a former Navy SEAL, he was heading the some sort of counterterrorism center when he was named acting director of national intelligence by Trump. So he is a Trump appointee, and I mean, I don't understand when he got this whistleblower complaint how he could possibly take it to two people named in the complaint, with basically the Trump White House and the William Barr Justice Department, since they're both named in the complaint. But that's what he did. I mean, I don't think he's dishonorable, but maybe he's just too hierarchical, having been a military in the Navy for all those years, or I don't know. But anyway, here, speaking of being hierarchical, he doesn't say, Trump has to decide, it's up to my superiors. He makes a promise to Adam Schiff. I thought of doing like Trump will be impeached live stream earlier in the week, because I basically came to the conclusion a few days ago that Trump was going to be impeached, at least like 90% plus positive he's going to be impeached. And I thought this was one of the most important parts. This was one of the clips I was going to show. Joe Maguire, the acting DNI, making a promise to Adam Schiff that the whistleblower will be able to testify in full. It's probably not going to be a public testimony, but there will be testimony to the House Intelligence Committee, as you can see. And by the way, if you want to watch the entire House Intelligence Committee on C-SPAN, there's a link down in the video description to that, and here's 41 seconds of it from last Wednesday over here.
Will the gentlewoman yield?
Yes.
Director, do I have your assurance that once you work out the security clearances for the Whistleblowers Council, that whistleblower will be able to relate the full facts within his knowledge that concern wrongdoing by the president or anyone else, that he or she will not be inhibited in what they can tell our committee, that there will not be some minder from the White House or elsewhere sitting next to them telling them what they can answer or not answer? Do I have your assurance that the whistleblower will be able to testify fully and freely and enjoy the protections of the law?
Yes, Congressman.
Thank you. I yield back to the gentleman.
So yeah, that was the promise. And by the way, I think I said that was on Wednesday a couple times before I showed the clip, but then while I was watching it, I remembered, no, that was on Thursday, that testimony. And one of the things, I've been watching Trump tweeting, and I just saw, I've been seeing all these super chat contributions, which I really appreciate, and I'll show all of them at the end. I think I forgot to do that last week, but I see Exodus 21V20 just asked if Congress can force Trump to testify under oath during an impeachment hearing. No, they cannot force the president to testify at all at the impeachment hearing. The president cannot be forced to testify to the Congress. I mean, it still remains to be seen if the Congress can force anyone to testify. If you remember last week, one of the forgotten hearings was the Corey Lewandowski hearing, where he refused to answer a lot of questions based on a totally bogus privilege, and I think we're going to see more of that. But no, the president can't be forced to testify at all at an impeachment hearing or the trial in the Senate. I suppose if he wanted to, I mean, knowing Trump, maybe he would want to. He's going to fix everything by going and just talking, because you know how when he talks, he is so persuasive. He has the best words, I believe he said. So maybe Trump will voluntarily go. Wouldn't that be awesome? But that's my answer to that one super chat question. Though I usually show those at the end, and most of them are just congratulatory and positive comments on my shirt, which I enjoy. But anyway, the next clip I want to show is I saw Trump tweeting, I think I was saying, attacking Adam Schiff over and over again, saying he lied to Congress, because in his opening statement he well, he called it a parody, but I think it's more of a paraphrase of what Trump said in the phone call. This is clip number 9. This is also from the House Intelligence Committee hearing, his opening statement before he started questioning Joe McGuire. He called it a parody, but I think, like I said, it's a paraphrase, and it's what happened on the phone call. First, what Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said, and then he sort of like mobs up a little bit what Trump said, makes him sound kind of like a mobster, and there is some parody in here, I guess, some humor. And at the end you'll see he says it would be funny if it weren't so serious. And Trump, I saw just like a couple hours ago, was saying Schiff lied to Congress, and it's it's a huge insult to the country. I'm paraphrasing though, like Adam Schiff is paraphrasing in this little under 2-minute clip from the hearing on Thursday over here.
And so what happened on that call? Zelensky begins by ingratiating himself, and he tries to enlist the support of the president. He expresses his interest in meeting with the president and says his country wants to acquire more weapons from us to defend itself. And what is the president's response? Well, it reads like a classic organized crime shakedown. Shorn of its rambling character and in not so many words, this is the essence of what the president communicates. We've been very good to your country, very good. No other country has done as much as we have. But you know what? I don't see much reciprocity here. I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you, though. And I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent, understand lots of it. On this and on that, I'm going to put you in touch with people, and not just any people. I'm going to put you in touch with Attorney General of the United States, my Attorney General, Bill Barr. He's got the whole weight of the American law enforcement behind him. And I'm going to put you in touch with Rudy. You're going to love him, trust me. You know what I'm asking, and so I'm only going to say this a few more times, in a few more ways. And by the way, don't call me again. I'll call you when you've done what I asked. This is, in character, what the president was trying to communicate with the president of Ukraine. It would be funny if it wasn't such a graphic portrayal of the president's oath of office.
And at the end of that clip there, if you were watching carefully, you can see Devin Nunes and who was next to Devin Nunes there? And they're like smiling at each other. And later, one of the Republicans asks Adam Schiff, where I was trying to find that statement in the documents. Where are you reading that statement from? Like, it was obviously, if not a parody, at least a paraphrase. He was basically showing how Trump is a wannabe mobster. He's not really a mobster. He's a legitimate businessman. We've elected a legitimate businessman as our president. But the fake outrage at that dramatic reimagining of, or basically paraphrase of what Trump said to show how ridiculous it is to say he's not pressuring the guy. And like I said, there's a link down in the video description to the entire hearing, and that's about 6-7 minutes in. So it's on C-SPAN. Go ahead and watch it. And I think the reaction from the Republicans, and especially from Trump, is way out of proportion. And what I really like is Adam Schiff's response when George Stephanopoulos asked him on This Week with George Stephanopoulos this morning he showed you'll see a very brief part of the clip I just showed, and Trump's anger about it, about how he lied to Congress, he should resign immediately, and all that stuff. That's what Trump's been saying about that clip I just showed you. And Adam Schiff's response, it's awesome as to why it is that Trump is really angry at Adam Schiff. I really enjoy this Adam Schiff clip. I hope you do as well. A little under 2 minutes that I will talk about with you a little more after we watch together over here.
I've been criticized by the president and others for comments you made in your opening statement at the hearing on Thursday. I want to show a bit of it right here.
I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent, understand lots of it. This is, in character, what the president was trying to communicate.
That was you putting, making up dialogue, putting it in the president's mouth. If the facts are as damning as you say, why make up dialogue for dramatic effect, even if it's a parody, as you say?
Well, George, you're right. The call speaks for itself, and it is plenty damning. But let's not pretend that this is really what the president is upset with me about. I can tell you exactly why the president is furious with me. And that is because when I learned that a whistleblower had filed a credible and urgent complaint and it was being withheld from Congress, and no one in the country knew about this yet, I went public to demand that we get that complaint. I scheduled a hearing with the acting director to force the director to come in, as I said at the time, to explain to the American people why he was the first director to withhold a complaint from Congress. That had the effect of forcing the White House to produce that complaint, which I then made public. That also had the effect of forcing them to release that call record. That's what the president is furious with me about. The president believes that it is his God-given right to shake down foreign leaders for helping his reelection, and he should not be encumbered by the public finding out about it. That's what has incensed the president, and I'm willing to take the brunt of that. And I have to say once again how grateful I am to the courage of the whistleblower. All I did was expose that complaint. The whistleblower, had the whistleblower not come forward, none of us would have known of the corrupt conduct the President of the United States was engaged in.
Final question. Since then, have other whistleblowers come forward?
And Adam Schiff in that final question wouldn't say whether additional whistleblowers have come forward, but wasn't that an awesome answer from Adam Schiff on the whole, you lied to Congress? Well, I mean, George Stephanopoulos didn't go into the depths of the way the Republicans are attacking Adam Schiff for his opening statement, his whatever, which I don't know why it has created such ire on the right, but I think Adam Schiff may actually have nailed why Donald Trump is so upset, and you can let me know what you think down in the comments section. And I have one more newsmaking clip. This is Thomas Bossert, and after this I will get to 4 different Republicans being cross-examined by cable or by the corporate news media hosts, starting with the epic Jake Tapper takedown of Representative Jim Jordan. But before I get to that, this is the last newsmaking clip where Tom Bossert, who you may remember I showed as a newsmaker over the last few years before he quit the Trump administration. He was the White House advisor on Homeland Security. In the introduction, George Stephanopoulos even says he was like responsible for election security. So he knows at least what is the government line on who is responsible for trying to interfere with the 2016 election, and he knows that whole CrowdStrike thing, this whole weird conspiracy theory, the CrowdStrike conspiracy theory that Trump asked Volodymyr Zelensky about that was the first favor he asked for. It's totally bogus, according to Trump's own White House Homeland Security advisor, Tom Bossert. And he's mad that Rudy Giuliani, though later Rudy Giuliani denies this in a clip I won't show you, saying that Tom Bossert doesn't know what he's talking about. But here's the conspiracy theories filling Trump's brain as described by his former White House Homeland Security advisor, Tom Bossert, on ABC News' This Week with George Stephanopoulos this morning over here.
Let's walk through some of what's in the whistleblower's complaint, and I want to show it up on the screen. It starts with President Zelensky saying, "I'd like to thank the president for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes." And then the president says, "I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people to survey. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation." Now, what the president is referring to there is a debunked conspiracy theory that somehow Ukraine, not Russia, hacked the Democratic emails in 2016, and that Ukraine might have the DNC server or Hillary's emails. The details are both convoluted and false. And during your time in the White House, you explained that to the president, right?
I did. It's not only a conspiracy theory, it is completely debunked. You know, I don't want to be glib about this matter, but last year, retired former Senator Judd Gregg wrote a piece in the Hill magazine saying the 3 ways or the 5 ways to impeach oneself. And the 3rd way was to hire Rudy Giuliani. And at this point, I am deeply frustrated with what he and the legal team is doing and repeating that debunked theory to the president. It sticks in his mind when he hears it over and over again. And for clarity here, George, let me just again repeat that it has no validity. The United States government reached its conclusion on attributing to Russia the DNC hack in 2016 before it even communicated it to the FBI and long before the FBI ever knocked on the door at the DNC. So a server inside the DNC was not relevant to our determination to the attribution. It was made up front and beforehand. And so while servers can be important in some of the investigations that followed, it has nothing to do with the U.S. government's attribution of Russia for the DNC hack.
Yet the president keeps on repeating it. You condemn Mayor Giuliani for continuing to tell the president to do that. How
My guess is, if you ask the American people, when they look at what happened with Joe Biden's son, I don't know that.
What happened with Joe Biden's son?
He got paid $50,000, Jake. $50,000 a month for several years now.
And the Ukrainian prosecutor said there's no evidence of wrongdoing.
Come on.
What?
Come on. The vice president's son gets paid $50,000 a month and gets hired by a company in an industry he has no experience in.
I don't know what happened. Oh, wait. I fixed the audio. I don't know how long the audio wasn't working there. I went to the clip and I saw that the audio wasn't working. I don't know how long that was going on there. No sound. For like 5 minutes. I moved. I apologize for the lack of sound there. And I got it fixed, but I don't know exactly. Was it at the end of the last clip? My computer was overheating, so I moved it a little bit, and I think I may have dislodged the microphone cord, and I really apologize for that. But I guess I was talking about Jake Tapper's big takedown of epic takedown of Jim Jordan that I'm about to show you here, and I don't know, what did I was talking about also how Tom Bossert in the previous clip was you didn't hear anything I said after the Tom Bossert clip, I guess. And so I guess I was talking about how he broke news on how Trump is hearing these conspiracy theories from Rudy Giuliani about how Russia was hacked, or Russia hacked the election, or didn't hack the election, instead it was the Ukrainians. And anyway, I apologize for the audio going out. And now I want to get to the cross-examinations of Republicans trying to defend the president. And Jim Jordan is the first one. And I'm reading everybody telling me about how my audio was screwed up. And again, I apologize for that. I can't recreate everything I said that didn't get picked up by the stupid microphone when I moved my laptop to stop it from overheating, and I apologize for that. But anyway, here's the epic takedown of Jim Jordan by Jake Tapper, which I will discuss with you a little more after we watch that together over here.
My guess is, if you ask the American people, when they look at what happened with Joe Biden's son, I don't know that.
What happened with Joe Biden's son?
He got paid $50,000, Jake. $50,000 a month for several years now.
And the Ukrainian prosecutor said there's no evidence of wrongdoing.
Come on.
What?
Come on. The vice president's son gets paid $50,000 a month and gets hired by a company in an industry he has no experience in, and that's fine. And all you folks in the press and Democrats, no problem here. Go try taking that message to the American people.
If you want to propose a law,
who don't make $50,000 in a year, and when they see the vice president's son getting paid $50,000 a month in a field, in an industry he has no experience in, I kind of wonder what Hunter Biden did in those board meetings. So would he just look at his phone, check out the sports?
In May, the Ukrainian,
he's getting paid $50,000, and then when the company that's paying him that money is under investigation, guess what? Daddy comes running to the rescue. The vice president of the United States comes running and says,
what happened.
Fire that prosecutor.
Sir, that's not what happened. The European Union, the Obama administration, the International Monetary Fund, clean government activists in Ukraine thought that the prosecutor was not prosecuting corruption.
So you're saying Joe Biden didn't tell Ukraine to fire that prosecutor? I think he did.
He did.
No, but the guy bragged about it.
The guy was not prosecuting anything. That was the problem. The government of the United States and the West
Joe Biden told him to fire the prosecutor.
You're not saying facts. You say, here are the facts.
No, here are the facts. Did Joe Biden tell him to fire the prosecutor?
Because he wasn't going after corruption. He wasn't going after corruption. Do you understand what I'm saying? He wasn't going after corruption.
Was that prosecutor looking into Burisma, the company that had hired Joe Biden's son for $50,000
According to the Ukrainians,
yes.
that investigation was dormant at the time.
Most importantly,
that investigation was dormant at the time.
Did Joe Biden's son get paid $50,000 a month in a field in an industry that he had no experience in? Those are three key facts.
If you want to push a law saying that the children of presidents and vice presidents should not be doing international business deals, I'm all for it. But you're setting a standard that is not being met right now.
I'm just telling you what happened. Joe Biden called up and said, fire this prosecutor or you're not getting in.
No, you're suggesting that Biden called for the prosecutor to be fired to protect his son. That's not what happened.
And President Trump says, oh, can you help me figure out what happened in the 2016 election? After all,
Congressman,
Democrats just put our country through 3 years of this when there was a false accusation and there was no evidence of any type of coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia to influence that election.
Here's the thing.
The president brings that up. And somehow he can't do that, but Joe Biden can do what he wants.
I want you to take a listen to Vice President Mike Pence when he was governor running for vice president, saying that it is a principle of the United States that foreign governments are not supposed to get involved in American elections. Let's roll that tape.
Now, y'all need to know out there, this is basic stuff. Foreign donors and certainly foreign governments cannot participate in the American political process.
That once was a principle of the United States. But now, no, it's not, because the president is calling for Ukraine to investigate his rivals.
Jake, you're missing the fundamental point here.
I'm not missing anything.
Democrats, if you want to impeach, if this is their argument, Rudy Giuliani talked to your Ukrainian. Rudy Giuliani, the private lawyer of the president, so we're going to impeach this president.
I'm not saying whether
I think the American people are going, really?
I'm not taking a position
in light of what this president has been able to do leading our country, in light of the economic growth, what he's done with our Supreme Court justice, what he's done with the embassy in Jerusalem, a host of things. You really think the American people are like, wait a minute, so Rudy Giuliani, the president's private lawyer, had a conversation
I
with
think that you came here and leveled a bunch of accusations and allegations about Hunter Biden.
I didn't level. I just said the facts. Did he get paid $50,000 a month?
He was paid by a foreign company. Yeah, he was paid by Burisma. But Joe Biden was trying to get a prosecutor who was not pursuing corruption fired, and it was supported.
It's amazing the gymnastics you guys will go through to defend what. Do you really think the vice president?
And I would think somebody who's been accused of things in the last year and two would be more sensitive about throwing out wild allegations against people.
I'm not throwing out wild. I'm throwing out the facts.
The prosecutor was not pursuing corruption. That's why the entire West wanted him fired, including anti-corruption activists in Ukraine. I don't understand what you don't get about that.
I get that. I'm just talking about this specific case that there's been reporting on, and the facts of that specific case are what he was paid per month, $50,000. Like I said, that's more than some of the folks I get the privilege of representing in the 4th District of Ohio get paid in a year. He's getting that $50,000 a month. The vice president's son, he got hired for what?
The president's daughter right now is having all sorts of copyrights granted in foreign countries. That doesn't alarm you. The president's sons are doing all sorts of business all over the world. That doesn't alarm you.
Come on.
Come on? Either there's a principle that people should not benefit from their connections, or there isn't.
The previous administration's FBI went after this president on July 31st.
They did a crappy job then because they didn't even acknowledge there was an investigation
they went after him
until after the election.
They spied on 2 Americans associated with President Trump's campaign. They put Peter Strzok in charge of that campaign. The guy who said Trump should lose $100 million to zero. They allowed Jim Comey leak documents to get a special counsel. They used the dossier to go get a warrant to spy on
now we're
campaign.
Back to the dossier.
No, I'm just saying that's what happened to President Trump. And now that none of that worked. None of that worked.
I understand you want to change the subject, but the president was pushing the president of Ukraine to investigate a political rival. I cannot believe that is okay with you. I can't believe it's okay with you. If this is a principle...
It's not okay because he didn't do that.
It's in the transcript. We all read it.
I read the transcript.
He says that the Bidens need to be investigated.
That's what you guys do. You guys don't read things in context. The context is that comes up when Zelensky's talking about all investigations open and candid.
Congressman Jordan, we appreciate your passion. Thank you so much for being here. My next guest is running to replace President Trump in the White House. I'm going to talk to Senator Cory
No audio? Oh, there we go. I don't know what is... My microphone is obviously having problems. I don't know. Whatever. I apologize again, but at least that time I noticed that it wasn't working when I came back from the clip. I don't know why that happened, but I thought that was a great cross-examination of Jim Jordan by Jake Tapper. He seemed to be getting more and more angry. I don't know. Did he seem angry? I don't know. Just not angry so much as just he was out of patience, I think, with Jim Jordan there. And the only real criticism I can have of what Jake Tapper did there is he claimed that Ivanka Trump was getting copyrights all over the world. I'm sorry, I am an attorney with some interest in intellectual property, and I happen to know Ivanka Trump she's getting trademarks. She's not getting copyrights, but most people don't even really see the difference between trademarks and copyrights. So, I think one of the main things that I was saying that got lost in the lack of microphone before I showed that clip was I was kind of previewing what Jake Tapper was saying about how when Joe Biden went to the Ukraine to get that prosecutor fired, the prosecutor he was trying to get fired was recognized as corrupt by the Obama administration and European allies and the IMF, like Jake Tapper said, and the investigation into Hunter Biden and the Burisma gas company, that was dormant under the prosecutor that Biden got fired as the point person for this policy that was agreed upon by all these different stakeholders, and also the indigenous Ukrainian clean government advocates who also wanted that prosecutor fired. You heard Jake Tapper talk about that. I think those are a lot of the things I was talking about before I showed the clip that all you saw were my lips moving and didn't hear what I was saying, and I don't know why that happened, but like I said, I thought Jake Tapper did a great job there, and Chris Wallace did a pretty good job with Stephen Miller, the person, I was saying he has resting fascist face, and I think you'll see a little Stephen Miller smile maybe, but a lot of fascism here when he talks about the whistleblower. It's the whistleblower who is committing treason, or I don't know. This is the best of the worst of Stephen Miller, I guess, and hopefully my microphone will be working when I come back from Chris Wallace doing his cross-examination of Stephen Miller. And this is just part one of a longer interview. You can watch the whole interview at a link down in the video description. There's some gems here where Chris Wallace actually says to Stephen Miller, you seem to have come with your non-answer, and it was a very combative interview, and so I criticized Chris Wallace earlier, and especially Kevin Corke earlier, but this was a good cross-examination of Stephen Miller. And I'm going to just show you the first 3 minutes, 44 seconds of it over here.
Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, let's start with the House Democratic subpoenas of the State Department of a massive set of documents, as well as 5 witnesses for this week. Will President Trump comply with the House subpoena?
That's going to be between the president's attorneys, the White House counsel's office, and the House committees. I have no news, unfortunately, to make on that issue, Chris. But what I do want to say is that I think it's unfortunate that the media continues to describe this individual as a whistleblower, and honorific that this individual most certainly does not deserve. A partisan hit job does not make you a whistleblower just because you go through the Whistleblower Protection Act.
Well, first of all, how do you know that this is a partisan hit job? And how do you know that this is not a whistleblower? In fact, under DNI, the Department of National Intelligence rules, well, you know what? Let's go back this, and we're going to jump around a little bit because I didn't know you were going to go here. Here is the comment from the DNI, the acting DNI, before Congress, Joe Maguire, in his testimony this week. Take a look.
I believe that the whistleblower and the Inspector General have acted in good faith throughout. I have every reason to believe that they have done everything by the book and followed the law.
That is the Director of National Intelligence, Joe Maguire, a lifetime servant of this country, a Navy SEAL. He says that the whistleblower was acting in good faith and acting by the book. On what basis do you say that this was a partisan hit job?
First of all, if you read the 7-page little Nancy Drew novel that the whistleblower put together, it drips with condescension, righteous indignation, and contempt for the president. It's also ludicrous on its face. It describes an elaborate cover-up that also, by the way, the president discussed on Sean Hannity, April 25th. What kind of secret cover-up are you also discussing on the airwaves of Fox News? Furthermore, the Inspector General found evidence of political bias in the individual, which is not disputed by anybody.
But wait a minute. But he also, both the Director of National Intelligence and the Inspector General said they also found his comments to be credible and a matter of urgent concern, and they turned it over to the Justice Department. So despite all that, they thought that this was a credible complaint.
And they're wrong, Chris.
Well, on whose basis?
Chris, I've worked in the government now, the federal government now, for nearly 3 years. I know what the deep state looks like. I know the difference between a whistleblower and a deep state operative. This is a deep state operative, pure and simple. People who haven't been in the federal government, who haven't worked in the White House, may not appreciate this. But the situation is you have a group of unelected bureaucrats who think that they need to take down this president. I'll attend interagency meetings, Chris, where I know for a certain fact, if I don't invite the right people, the meeting will leak. If I don't say the right thing, they'll go to the Hill. If we propose a policy idea that they don't approve of, they'll work with Democrat appropriators to try to block it. They leak this president's phone calls. They publish hit pieces. They publish fake stories. They've been doing this continuously for nearly 3 years, and their motives and their agenda is clear. This is about, do you want a democracy in this country or do you want a deep state? It's a binary choice for the American people.
Again, this person that you're accusing of all this, the Director of National Intelligence, Joe Maguire, a lifelong servant of this country, said was acting in good faith and going by the book. But enough with the rhetoric. Let's talk about some specific facts in this.
And like, oh, look at that. I came back from the clip and my microphone's still working. Hallelujah. I think Chris Wallace did a pretty good job of cross-examining Stephen Miller there. Unlike the criticisms I made of his news summary earlier, I still don't think he's. I still think he's a supposedly straight news anchor because he definitely leans to the right, even though he's, Chris Wallace, Shepard Smith, they even say Brett Baer, maybe, I don't know, but there are supposedly a few people who are not as crooked, more straight news on Fox News, and Chris Wallace is supposedly one of them, and I've criticized him a lot in a lot of my Fox News Sunday clips because he still carries the water for the alternate universe, but it seems like this week might be he can't carry the water that far. Is that what I'm to infer from the way he was saying that the Republicans were spinning? Because the Republicans are spinning, and I have two more spinning Republicans and cross-examinations by corporate news media anchors on the Sunday morning news analysis shows. These are actually from best to worst. Jake Tapper was the best. Chris Wallace, I think, did a pretty good job. Margaret Brennan also does a pretty good job. Chuck Todd is the last one, and I don't think he cross-examined Steve Scalise very well. But that's the clip after next. The next clip is Margaret Brennan cross-examining Lindsey Graham. First, you'll hear Lindsey Graham make this weird argument that the whistleblower complaint is hearsay. Like, you can read the whole 9-page whistleblower complaint at a link down in the video description. And a lot of it is hearsay, but that just means let's talk to the whistleblower. Let's investigate the people that talk to the whistleblower, find out who they are, get them to come in, hearsay, I mean, first of all, impeachment itself is just an accusation. It's like a grand jury indictment. That's the function of the House of Representatives, is to see if there's enough evidence for a trial, just like a grand jury. And grand juries can indict based on hearsay evidence. So Lindsey Graham doesn't even know what he's talking about when he talks about hearsay evidence. And then he goes on to try to attack the whistleblower, and Margaret Brennan, I think, does a good job in the first minute of this minute and 40-second clip, trying to point out to Lindsey Graham that what the whistleblower is saying has actually been corroborated by the transcript of, or the summary transcript of, the July 25th conversation between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, the newly elected president of Ukraine. But Lindsey Graham isn't having any of it, and he doesn't want to hear the facts. He thinks the facts are her opinion, and he has his opinion that the whistleblower complaint isn't corroborated by the so-called transcript, even though if you read the two of them, I mean, there are links down in the video description. You can see basically Lindsey Graham is full of shit. Margaret Brennan briefly points it out, and then Lindsey Graham just talks and talks and talks for, well, it's only a minute and 40 seconds, which I will talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over here.
The President of the United States, based on hearsay, every American has the right to confront their accuser.
You wanted the president to release this partial call record.
I did.
But you're saying this is hearsay. The complaint on a number of fronts is matched by the call record.
The transcript and the complaint are not matched.
The reference
now,
to the
wait
DNC
a
server.
Please let me talk.
Will you
please,
do
please.
a favor? I'm laying out the facts here.
No, you're not.
The
No, you're making an
repeated
argument
reference to
that-
Joe Biden.
Here's
All
the
those
point.
things are
Joe
laid
Biden
out here. The
went
fact
to
that the
the-
Attorney General was
Never
brought
mind.
up.
You know, you've got an opinion, I got an opinion. You got me on the show to tell me what I think. I think Mueller did a good job for the country, and there was nothing there. I think this whole thing is a sham. I can't believe we're talking about impeaching the president based on an accusation based on hearsay. Who is this whistleblower? What bias do they have? Why did they pick this whistleblower to tell a hearsay story? The transcript does not match the complaint. What's going on here? Why did they change the rules about a whistleblower? You can use hearsay when you could not, just weeks before the complaint. So I think this thing stinks. And let me tell you about Republicans. You want to know about Republicans? Republicans believe that you're guilty just by the accusation. If you're Brett Kavanaugh, it doesn't matter. They don't tell you when it happened and where it happened. It just happened 30 years ago. If you're Donald Trump, you don't get to confront your accuser like every other American. Republicans believe this president's being persecuted. They don't love Donald Trump and the way he does business. They like what he does, but they believe he's being persecuted. They believe that everybody's out to get him. And I believe, as to this complaint, it smells.
So the acting director of national intelligence.
Smells? He said it stinks and it smells. It seems like it's more about coming up with pejorative adjectives than actually responding to the facts that Margaret Brennan tried to insert in there, and then just got attacked by Lindsey Graham for bringing up the facts. Or I don't know. You can let me know what you think down in the comment section. I'm glad to see my microphone is still working, and I want to get to the final cross-examination. You know, a lot of people say that Chuck Todd is not a good cross-examiner, and a lot of weeks I think he does a good job, and I think he especially does a good job to the extent he's responsible for the news summaries, and that also has to do with his producers, I'm sure. But this week, of the 4 Republican Trump defenders who were cross-examined that I took clips of, I think Chuck Todd actually did the worst job cross-examining Steve Scalise, bringing up all these weird talking points. And he brings up the whole CrowdStrike thing here that I talked about earlier as being totally debunked, and you saw Tom Bossert debunk it, and Chuck Todd just barely debunks it, talking to Steve Scalise in the clip I'll talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over here.
Due to an accident on email, we know some of the talking points that the White House has sent over to House Republicans, including the defense that they have is saying there was no quid pro quo in the phone call, that in itself should be enough to stave off of impeachment. But I am curious, when you hear and read the phrase, I want you to do us a favor, though, and you know, again, I think the president of Ukraine has the internet, so he knew that aid was frozen. How do you interpret it if it's not a quid pro quo? How do you interpret it, I need us to do us a favor, though?
Well, first of all, Chuck, if you read that sentence, what the president is talking about is CrowdStrike. He's talking about the 2016
Does that make it better?
With our election by Russia.
Does that make it better?
Well, President Trump is trying to look into the interference by Russia so it doesn't happen again. I thought you would want to be concerned about making sure that doesn't happen again as well.
Well, let me ask you this, though.
That's what he's talking about, not Joe Biden.
The intelligence community, his own intelligence folks have said it was Russia that did the hack. He's the only person that seems to believe that Russia didn't do the hack. So the CrowdStrike, does that even make you
not at all.
Does that
Not
make you
at
more
all.
disturbed that he doesn't believe our own intelligence?
Well, CrowdStrike, first of all, was the one who got the server, and they never shared it with the FBI. They've never shared it with anybody. There's still a lot of information we're trying to find out about how the Russians interfered with our election when Barack Obama was president, and I'm glad President Trump continues to look into that interference so it doesn't happen again. He's the one trying to root it out. By the way, President Trump is the one who's been standing up to Russia. They talked about Javelin missiles in that call. President Trump sold Javelin missiles to knock those tanks out that Russia was sending into the Ukraine. Obama wouldn't sell those Javelin missiles. You might want to ask President Obama or Joe Biden why they wouldn't sell the Javelins so that Ukraine could stop Russia from coming in with those tanks. But President Trump did and continues to provide relief. We've given a lot of relief. In fact, President Trump has probably given more help to Ukraine than any other president.
It seems as if you endorse.
So, yeah, that... I mean, Chuck Todd did ask a little bit about the debunked CrowdStrike conspiracy theory, but not enough in my mind. But you can let me know what you think down in the comment section. And now I want to finish up with two more Adam Schiff clips, both from NBC News' Meet the Press. Both good questions from Chuck Todd, getting some good information from Adam Schiff, not really news-making, but just more explanatory. First, Adam Schiff talking about why not just wait for the 2020 election? Why impeach? Well, I mean, that assumes that there's going to be a removal, which, like I said, I'm not predicting removal by the Senate, just I'm predicting over 90% chance that the House is going to impeach Donald Trump. And here's Adam Schiff in a brief clip talking about why impeachment is important even with the upcoming election over here.
I'm curious what you think of the argument that says no matter where you are on impeachment, especially if you are there, if you think the president should be thrown out of office, that because we're so close to November of 2020, that the election is the better place for that to happen. What do you say to those making that argument?
You know, Chuck, I was making that argument myself until these facts came to light that this is an extraordinary remedy. It should only be used in extraordinary circumstances. But here, what the president has done is of such an egregious character that there's a real risk in not moving forward with an impeachment. And I think when you look at the fact that the president engaged in this corrupt conduct with President Zelensky, corrupt on the president's part, not on Zelensky's part, the day after the Mueller hearing, the lesson this president appears to have received is that he can do whatever he wants. He can violate his oath of office. He can refuse to defend our Constitution. He can invite further foreign interference in our affairs. He can try to cover it up, and there'll be no consequence, no accountability. And that is simply too dangerous to be left that way. Okay. And so, yes, I certainly think that the gravity of the situation demands that we move forward with the inquiry.
Okay.
And we'll have to determine whether that also means return of articles.
Are we expecting to see Rudy Giuliani testify?
And like I said, no Rudy Giuliani clips, but the final news clip I want to show you before the bonus, well, it's actually just a Sandy clip, not a Dash and Sandy clip. But before I get to the bonus Sandy clip, and Sandy's lying down, sleeping right over there to my left, I want to show one more Adam Schiff news clip talking about which is worse, the crime or the contents of the July 25th call between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, asking him to look into dirt on Trump's political opponent, Joe Biden. Is that worse, or is the cover-up worse? And that's the final news clip. Chuck Todd asking that question to Adam Schiff this morning on Meet the Press over here.
Let me start with the whistleblower's complaint. It does feel as if it is your roadmap. I think you have said it's the roadmap for the investigation. How much of your investigation is about the specifics of what the president did with the aid, with Ukraine, with Rudy Giuliani? And how much of your investigation is about the attempt to keep that from you?
Well, I think really the gravamen of the offense here is the president using the power of his office to coerce a foreign nation into helping his presidential campaign to once again interfere in our election, and at the same time withholding foreign aid that country so desperately needs to fight off who? The Russians. That to me is the most serious constellation of issues, and I know that many people have suggested, and it may have been true in the past, that the cover-up is the bigger crime. Sometimes the cover-up is the easier crime to prove, but here, yes, the cover-up is very serious, but I don't want to lose sight of that fundamental breach of the president's oath of office, the duty to defend our country, our Constitution, and here the president is once again not just inviting but coercing a foreign nation to get involved to try to help him in yet another presidential election. So to me, that's the most serious set of offenses.
So yeah, they say the cover-up was worse than the crime, but no. Adam Schiff is saying, in this case, pay attention to the crime. Or he didn't say crime, but the offense, the impeachable offense, the crime against the American people, even if it's not. And by the way, if you look at the links down in the video description, I've moved up the link to 52 U.S. Code Section 30121, contributions and donations by foreign nationals. That is the federal law that says that you cannot solicit or accept anything of value from a foreigner, not just a foreign government, but any foreigner. Anything of value from any foreigner, unless they are like a permanent resident green card holder in the United States. But you can't accept help from a foreigner in our elections. That's a campaign finance violation, and it's an abuse of power. The Mueller report showed a lot of instances of obstruction of justice, and it's all coming down on the Trump administration. That's why I'm wearing the Impeach Trump t-shirt you can see right here. I have been talking over the last couple years on my LiberalViewer Sunday live clip roundup about how I want to just keep going and cover the impeachment. And then the Mueller report didn't really result in impeachment, and I was starting to get disheartened and starting to think I wouldn't be able to have an impeachment to cover. But Trump is getting impeached, and what the Senate will do with it, that remains to be seen. But 90% plus chance the House of Representatives is going to impeach President Donald Trump. He will be the only president ever, I mean, assuming he still tries to run for re-election, he will be the only president ever to try to run for re-election after being impeached. Andrew Johnson did not run for re-election after being impeached. Bill Clinton impeached after he was reelected. And Of course, Richard Nixon resigned before being impeached. Those are the 3 previous impeachment cases. None of them resulted in a president trying to run for re-election after being impeached. Will the Senate remove him? What will the facts show? I can't really tell you, but I do want to thank the Super Chat contributors. There have been so many. It's because my microphone went out, I guess. People contributed to Super Chat. You can't really see them, but here they are. Sorry, I haven't gotten so many that I had to shrink them down that much, and I guess it's my fault for having a microphone go out. But I did promise a Sandy clip, no dash clip. If you follow me on Instagram, you already saw this clip on Friday, but it was so good I have to show it again. This is just Sandy. I caught her doing not only sleepy barks, but sleepy wags. This is Sandy barking in her sleep and wagging her tail in her sleep last Friday. Over here. You've got to admit that's pretty awesome, and if there's a link down in the video description to follow me on Instagram. If you followed me on Instagram, you would have already seen that clip last Friday. Also, I appreciate those Super Chat contributions, but you can also support me at links down in the video description to PayPal and Patreon at the $5 level currently. You can get this hashtag LiberalViewer weather-resistant vinyl sticker, and at the $10 level, you can get that sticker plus this ACLU Constitution, which will let you know all about the constitutional requirements for impeachment. And I'm sometime in the next week or two, I'm hoping to create channel memberships on YouTube and a higher level, maybe the $20 level. I don't know how it's going to work out, but at the $20 level, there's going to be some t-shirt. Either you can let me know down in the comment section, would you rather have a t-shirt with this LiberalViewer icon or avatar or whatever it is, this, or would you rather have a t-shirt that says Impeach Trump? Maybe not exactly like this t-shirt, which actually I got off of Amazon, and it was made in Honduras. I don't know, is that good for the people of Honduras? I don't know, but I'm going to go to some local t-shirt printer here where I live in Sacramento and get a similar t-shirt made, maybe as the $20 level premium. Is that something people might be interested in? An Impeach Trump t-shirt, maybe with a exclamation point right here after Trump. Anyway, let me know what you think. And until next week, I will be back every Sunday with my Sunday live clip roundup, and it looks like I may have some impeachment hearings to cover. Extra live streams for that. And until I have some reason to do some live stream or edited produce video in the middle of the week, or until next Sunday, I guess I will be seeing all of you around the internet.